Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Tom Swanson, and I'm on the board of directors of the Greater Los Angeles Realtors, a state director of the California Association of Realtors, and president and co-founder of Exclusive Realty, Inc. I am so excited to be your MC today as I walk you through the components of a successful transaction. All right, so let's get started. The first part of the transaction that we're going to talk about is title. Now, this is an important process in the transaction, and we'll answer why certain title documents are necessary and how to overcome title issues. We are lucky to have Luca Boren of Lawyers Title to help guide us through this process. Please welcome Luca.
Hi everybody, my name is Luca Boren and I'm with Lawyers Title. Today I'm going to be answering three of the most common questions we as title professionals get asked. What is title insurance and why it's important and necessary in a real estate transaction? What is the life of a title order? And what are the most common title issues that may affect your transaction? So what is title insurance? Title insurance is a form of indemnity insurance that protects the buyer of the property from financial loss sustained from defects in a property's title. To keep it simple, title insurance protects property buyers and mortgage lenders against defects or problems with the title when there's a transfer of ownership. To further explain this, title insurance protects in three main ways. First, it ensures the transaction's legitimacy by protecting all of the parties involved. Second, title insurance protects the buyer and makes sure that down the road there won't be any lingering issues on the property that might come back to haunt them. Third, title insurance protects the lender by making sure that they are in the first lien position. An important note to mention is that title insurance policies are a one-time purchase, and they stay in effect as long as the homeowner holds title on their property. So now that you know what title insurance is, why it's important and necessary in a real estate transaction, I want to walk you through the steps of what the life of a title order looks like from start to finish. What is the life of a title order? The life of a title order begins when we receive instructions from you, your realtor, or your escrow officer that we need to open title and start researching the property. After the order is open, it is assigned to a team of searchers and examiners. At this point, we are going to research everything on public record that affects the property in question. Once we have all of the information, we type up the preliminary title report and it is sent out to all parties for review. When you receive your preliminary title report, you now have written notice of everything we have found against the property. So if there are any items that are on the report that will need curative measures to correct, such as mechanics liens, judgments, all of these items you will want to address as soon as possible. Upon careful review of your preliminary title report, you will work with escrow and our team at Lawyers Title to make sure all action items are cleared prior to the close of escrow. Once the title is clean and clear to close, our team will update the preliminary title report by doing what we call a date down. This usually happens in a day or two leading up to your scheduled close of escrow. By updating the report, we remove all action items that have been cleared and we double check to be sure nothing new has reported against the property since our initial search. The next step is we receive the documents and funds. Once we have the funds and documents, we send the deeds to the county so that the sale can be recorded. After, we make sure all parties are notified of the confirmation of the sale. Last step on title side of the transaction is when we wire the proceeds to the seller and make the payoffs to any lien holders that are due. That wraps up the life of a title order. We can now move on to the most common title issues you might come across in a real estate transaction. What are the most common title issues? When purchasing a home, you want your title to be as clean as possible. If there are any issues with title, it can slow down the home buying process. The following are some of the most common title issues. However, every property tells a different story. Typical title issues include if the property is in a trust, establishing fact of death, bankruptcies or foreclosures, power of attorney, use of proper execution, physical inspection results, probates, clearing liens or judgments on the property, transfer of loans including corporations and partnerships, recent construction, proper execution of documents, last-minute change in buyers or title coverage. While these are some of the most common title issues, there are certainly more that we haven't touched on. The items we just listed will require added clearance and processing time for title and escrow, which could delay the sale. So how can you get ahead of the game and make sure you avoid these issues? The answer is simple. Avoid delays by providing as much information as possible on any of the items in question. Now that we have reviewed the most common title issues, keep in mind that if you have any questions about a property, we are happy to run a title report for you. Hopefully you have found this information helpful and you better understand what title insurance is and why it's important. Here you will find my contact information. You can call or text me at 424-291-0806, email me at luca.boren@ltic.com, and visit my website at www.lucaboren.laltic.com.
Thank you, Luca. Okay, now let's move on to Escrow. From Escrow LA, we have Sharon Sharp and Dan Babick to help us understand the role of escrow and what our clients should expect for a smooth transaction. Please welcome Sharon and Dan.
Good afternoon, guys. I'm Dan Babick, and I'm Head of Business Development at Escrow LA. And I'm so excited today because I'm here with none other than my boss, Sharon Sharp, who is the president and owner of Escrow LA. And she's had the company for over 26 years.
26 years, yes.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about components of a successful transaction today. And obviously there's no one better in LA to talk about this than Sharon herself, because you've probably seen over the years many things go wrong in a transaction.
Yes.
And I wanted to know what agents can do to ensure that their transaction runs smooth as possible.
Great. Well, even before getting a listing, it's so important to do a few things that are so fast and easy to do that'll make a huge difference. And one of them is before going on the listing appointment, check title to the property to make sure the person actually owns the property. Believe it or not, some people try to sell real estate and they don't even own the property. And that's actually happened on quite a few transactions I've handled.
I remember even like you telling me a few years ago, there was this like crazy actually Australian woman that like went around and was driving her boss's car and was trying to sell all of these like, you know, massive houses in Los Angeles.
Exactly. It was really something. And I checked her out on the internet. You wouldn't believe what I found.
So that's obviously, I can imagine that being a, you know, huge delay in an escrow. What else do you need to do to make sure that it runs smoothly?
If the seller holds title in an entity like a trust, a corporation, a partnership, or an LLC, make sure you get a copy of the entity documents to be sure they can act on behalf of that entity. Some people don't have the authority to sell the property, so you want to make sure before you even go into escrow that you have verified they have the authority to sell the property. And if you run into that, let me know what type of entity it is, and I'll let you know what documents you should get from your client. And we should clear it with title too.
Yeah, because we've even seen that, especially with, you know, husbands and wives.
Yes.
The wife might think that she's able and she's got, you know, the right to sell the property, but she doesn't without her husband.
Exactly.
Or vice versa.
And another thing too is always order the preliminary title report before you go into escrow. Some people forget that they have a title problem, like a judgment or a lien, or there's an encroachment on the property that they weren't aware of, or there can be some other very serious title matter that could take weeks or months to clear up. So get that title search done as soon as you get that listing.
And I know that something that you kind of created a few years ago that we've been doing a lot with our clients, that if they expect to sell a property sooner, to order even the HOA docs and the city reports in advance. Why do you make that something a part of a lot of the escrows that you do?
I am so glad you brought that up, Dan, because it makes a tremendous difference. Unfortunately, with the homeowner association, most of these management companies take so long to provide the documents and they're incomplete. So if we order those in advance, we get the documents, we can make sure the package is complete. And also it saves the seller money, because if you wait until escrow opens, they always charge a rush fee that could be like $300, $400, $500. So you can avoid your client incurring that cost. Also with the city report, it's great to have that on hand before you go into escrow, because sometimes there is a problem that's disclosed on the city report. So it's so easy. If you just give us a call, we'll order those documents for you and your clients.
There we go. And that's why you're the #1 escrow officer in Los Angeles. Well, I like to think. Well, I think you are. And then this obviously comes up quite a lot. Clients ask their agents many questions that they don't know the answers to. What happens there when an agent doesn't know? Does he just make something up, which I would assume he shouldn't do? Or what should he or she do if they're confronted with questions that they don't have the answers to and they don't want to look like they don't know what's going on to their clients?
Right. Well, this does happen a lot. An agent can't know everything. There's so many different details involved in the sale transaction. So if you don't know, just very calmly say to your client, let me check on that and I'll get back to you. The clients are always happy to hear that. They'd rather have you say that to them than guess and give them the wrong answer. And unfortunately, many agents feel pressured to give their client an answer to every question. And sadly, sometimes they give them the wrong information, and that creates huge problems. So always say to your client, let me check on that and I'll get back to you. And then you can call me, and if I don't have the answer, I'll point you in the right direction. But it's so easy to handle it that way, and your client will be really happy.
That's awesome. And I know we're obviously talking about components of a successful transaction, because I think one of the most powerful and one of the most important components of a successful transaction is to work with an independent, unaffiliated company such as ours. And I kind of wanted you to explain a little bit more why it's so important to work with an independent, unaffiliated company like ours.
Oh, it's so important to work with a truly neutral third party. And in my professional opinion, an unaffiliated escrow company is the most neutral third party. The purpose of an escrow holder is to be a neutral third party. And it's so important not only for the seller and the buyer, but for the real estate agents too. I've had several clients, real estate agent clients, who were sued, and I had to testify in court. They did prevail in the cases, and when the jury talked to the attorneys about how they came to their decision, the jury said that because they worked with an independent, unaffiliated escrow company, that made a big difference to them. So that really helped these agents out with their cases.
Yeah, and that's what I've been hearing, when I go to the open houses, when we were allowed to go to open houses, that feels like it was years ago now. A lot of the agents were saying that, when they were in lawsuits, that, the jury would deem that it was a conflict of interest and they were in breach of their fiduciary responsibilities, because when you use an in-house company, it is essentially not 100% neutral because it's in-house.
Exactly.
And obviously we were talking about how it's so important to have a team that you can trust in all different industries with the smooth transaction. But I think we're forgetting about the most important team member of our team, Jacques-Henri.
Yes. He's one of my assistants.
So Sharon, tell everyone how they can get in contact with you.
They can reach me at 310-231-9100. My email is sharon@escrowla.com.
And unfortunately, Jacques does not have a direct line, and he only does take on specific clients. So if you do want to work with Jacques, it's best to email me, dbabic@escrowla.com. That's DBABIC. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Sharon and Dan. All right, our next speaker is Chris Griffin of LaRocca Home Inspections. Chris is here to talk about another important component and part of the transaction, the home inspection, and what expectations to set for yourself. Please welcome Chris.
Hi guys, Chris Griffin, president of LaRocca Inspections, and our sister company, Sewer Line Check, Chimney Check, and Mold and Moisture Check Professionals. Thank you for inviting me to be part of the presentation components to a successful transaction. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you some key ideas for managing the inspection contingency. This information will be helpful to both listing and buying side of the transaction. Before anything else, preparation is the key to success. That's a quote by Alexander Graham Bell. And in a real estate transaction, I think that we can all, that this rings true. Every transaction is unique. You really should prepare your clients with what to expect in that transaction, what to focus on, and what is important. And when I say that, mostly this is about like after the inspection is done, and a great example, let's say the inspector recommends the roof be further evaluated. A roofer comes out and the roofer says, yeah, well, the roof isn't in great shape. It really should be replaced. Now, it is not very realistic that the seller is going to install a brand new roof at the cost of $35,000, $40,000 for a buyer with that roof now lasting another 30 years, 35 years. So in finding out your client's expectations, you may discover that the client would have accepted the house as it is if the roof had, let's say, 6 or 7 years of life left in it. Well, now you have some negotiating power. Now you have the ability to go to the seller and say, would you offer credits that would cover 6 or 7 years of that new roof, the life expectancy of the roof? And that's a realistic request, and likely would be entertained by a seller to keep that transaction moving forward. Knowing how many days for their contingency is truly a component to a successful transaction. If you don't know the time frame that you have to work in, that could obviously cause undue stress and risk the entire deal. Before the offer, verify that all utilities are on. Make sure from the listing side that the gas, the water, the electricity, and so forth are on, and that the property is accessible, including the garage. All areas are open to view. Schedule all the inspections the same day. As realtors, you do know that general home inspectors refer sewer lines, chimneys, mold, termite, that's not part of their inspection. So why not have those inspections done on the same day and save time? Your reports will come at you quicker. You're able to move more fluidly through the contingency period, having that information at the front end as opposed to waiting for it at the back end. Make the inspection reports a priority for your client. Them reading the reports is very important for their understanding of their property that they're purchasing. They are actually contractually obligated to my company to read their reports. In my contract, it does state one of the client's duties is to read their report and to ask any questions of their inspectors. If they're referring to professionals or other contractors, try as best as you can to get them out the same day as well. Maybe spread them out throughout the day. So the roofer's here at 9 a.m., the plumber's here at 11. That way you and your client can spend some personal time with those experts getting more information. Obviously, uncommon issues can arise. It's a good idea to get second and third opinions, options and costs. Obviously, having options and various costs can help in negotiations, as I gave you an example of just previously. Know your car inspection docs, your California Association of Realtor inspection docs. Read them, use them, keep up to date on them. They do change every once in a while. The residential purchase agreement, the statewide buyer seller's advisory, the seller advisory, the buyer's inspection advisory, the buyer's inspection elections, buyer's inspection waiver. If they're not getting inspections that you recommend, please make sure they're signing that inspection waiver document. These documents answer questions. Refer your clients to these documents. When they ask a question, if you know those documents, you know that you can refer them to those documents to get their question answered, thereby helping to protect you. Setting clients' expectations is very, very important. When the client understands that there are costs to a home inspection, but yet those costs can be 1/2000th of the purchase price of a home. That's on average. On average, your costs are $15, $16, and $100 for those 4 inspections: the physical, the mold, the chimney, the sewer. But that's 1/2000th of the purchase price. And on an average, typically, there's about an $8,000 savings or credit, based on these inspections. Which inspections do they choose? The 5 most. You guys know them. We've been discussing them. Those are the most requested inspections. You can refer them to your buyer's inspection election document to go over all 37 of the other inspections that they could have. You can have them call me. I can help them choose the inspections of what I feel would be most important for that area. And in the long game, obviously, learn from each inspection that you do. You're going to come away with information. It's going to allow you to up your game for your next transaction. You're going to improve your strategies for your future transactions, staying ahead of problems. Treat each one newly, yes, and prepare yourself newly, but just learn from the experience of the previous ones. Satisfied clients refer their agents. You know that? I know that. Thanks a lot for letting me join you here today. Hopefully this information you can use as a component to a successful transaction. I appreciate it. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chris. All right. Following a home inspection, another important component of maintaining the property is pest control. Our next speaker is Andre Caruana from the Termite Guy, and he will help shine a light on how to deal with critters on your client's property. Please welcome Andre.
Hi, my name's Andre. I am a termite inspector for the Termite Guy. I've been doing termite inspections for 9 years, and I service the Los Angeles County area. I'm going to answer some common questions in regards to termite in the real estate world. As soon as possible. Lucky for you, the Termite Guy will issue out a report within 24 hours after the inspection. You should order from a company you should trust. The Termite Guy has over 20 years of experience. We're a licensed general contractor, and we can do woodwork and also treatment. Call the office, sign the last page of our report, which is the authorization page. During the busy season, I suggest you call the office 2 weeks prior before your escrow closes. During the COVID-19, the Termite Guy is considered an essential business. We are still open and monitoring the situation closely while employing the health and safety measures that protect our clients and the team. Our office will remain open for business with limited access and hours of 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Each of our inspectors and crew who perform the inspection, repair, or treatment will be wearing gloves, masks, and shoe booties when entering properties, and will be ordered to wash and sanitize their hands before and after they complete every inspection or job. If you have any further questions, go to our website, 877termite.com. Stay safe, positive, and healthy.
Thanks, Andre. That was great. Okay, now it's time to talk about the Natural Hazard Disclosure Report, which is required on all real estate transactions. From my NHD, we have Mindy Regan to talk about the importance of the NHD report. Please welcome Mindy.
Well, the way that you determine if a property is in a flood, fire, or earthquake zone is by getting a natural hazard disclosure report. The NHD industry is not regulated, and so each report is written a little differently, but what's mandatory on all of them is the statutory form from CAR. That's the form that has to flood, to fire, and to earthquake on that form, which determines if the home that the buyer is going to purchase is in any of those hazardous zones. This became mandatory in 1998, and my NHD is on your CAR zip forms in the first drop-down box, so it's really easy to click on that when you're the buyer's agent to put that into your contract so that the buyer has complete knowledge of everything going on their property. So I hope that would help. The other questions that are really always coming up is the NHD report mandatory? And then what are those 6 natural hazards that are on the signature page of the NHD report? That's what I'm referring to per Civil Code 1103.7. The NHD report that is mandatory on all transactions is required to be given to the buyer within 7 days of the accepted offer. That's so that the buyer can look it over, since they have 3 days to determine if they're going to move forward on the property or pull out of that transaction. And it is the listing agent's fiduciary duty, representing the seller in the transaction, to provide this report. And that's within 7 days of the accepted offer. Not to any looky-loos, just who wants to make the offer on that property. And that way they can determine, are they in that flood, fire, or earthquake zone? The natural hazard disclosure industry is not regulated. Therefore, it's really important to pay attention to which NHD company you choose. My NHD happens to be in partnership with Sierra and the ZIP forms, which is really, really good because they've approved us, they've endorsed us, and that's because we have a proven track record for over 28 years in the business. And we are able to stand behind our product with $10 million of E&O insurance. The insurance protects both buyer-seller, buyer's agent, listing agent, and the escrow officer and a transaction coordinator if you use one. So the reason it's really important to choose, depending on which side of the transaction you're on, is that the fiduciary duty of the listing agent representing the seller is that they do need to provide this report within 7 days of the accepted offer to the buyer. Why? That's because the buyer has 3 days once they receive it to either move forward on the transaction or pull out of it based on material fact. Material fact is what is really just important to disclose on everything, because material fact affects the desirability and the value of the house. So the California Association of Realtors decided that California is going to require a statutory form determining if you're in a flood, a fire, or an earthquake zone. And the Sierra ZIP forms is where we have our first drop-down box, and we're listed there where you can just click on it and check that box. And it's because when you go to decide who you want for escrow, title, home warranty, all of those services are regulated, but natural hazard disclosure industry is not. So you never want to leave it blank if you're the buyer's representative, because you want to choose the service that's going to protect your client. So my NHD does provide the statutory form to flood, to fire, to earthquake. The buyer is mandatory, it's mandatory that they sign it, as well as the seller and the listing agent. And then when you are the buyer's representative and you are filling out your RPA, residential purchase agreement, you want to always check the box that you prefer. And since it's a non-regulated industry and Civil Code 1103.7 requires it, the fiduciary duty of the buyer's agent is to also choose. So we're the first drop-down box on the Sierra ZIP forms, along with the environmental report, which just provides extra information about what's going on in the industry, things that are happening underneath the ground, man-made materials, chemicals, all kinds of things like cleaners, gas stations, things that could affect the property are what need to be disclosed. So we are here to protect you with our $10 million of E&O. And it's very, very important that people are aware of the differences. So I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. Appreciate that. All right, moving on. Our next speaker is Ami Adini of Ami Adini Environmental Services to talk to us about the important topic of environmental risks, what you need to be aware of, and how to remove risks from your transaction. Please welcome Ami.
Thank you for introducing me. In these days, as a community of real estate professionals and affiliates, we face various unknowns, and it is the nature of the unknown to induce concerns. Well, at least in the environmental area, we can help reduce concerns that stand in the way of transactions with commercial and industrial properties. My expertise in this field starts in early 1988 in a contract with the city of Arcadia for the cleanup of a 1-acre site behind the Embassy Suites Hotel. Proceeded from there to investigate 72 oil and gas properties for sale by Texaco USA, and from there to the assessment of risks in the land that became the Civic Center District of Anaheim, over 500 commercial, industrial, and residential properties. From there, we proceeded to complete thousands of environmental assessments. Preceding my environmental career were 25 years of engineering in nuclear facilities, chemical plants, and hazardous wastewater treatment plants, an experience that backs up in a large way the environmental work that I'm doing today in the real estate industry. I am a licensed general engineering contractor with additional classification and record in the removal of hazardous substances. Recently, we completed the cleanup of a 14,000 square foot property in Silver Lake, Los Angeles, where we tested and removed 1,000 cubic yards of soil contaminated with pesticides to enable development of a 16-unit apartment building. I like to think that I belong with a select group of experts in this area and encourage our listeners to visit the educational sections of our website, where you will find newsletters and videos rich with colorful images and poor with technical lingo. Contact me always for guidance. Send me reports that you do not understand, and I will make you understand, guaranteed, and free of charge. There is some questions that come routinely from realtors, lenders, investors, and even attorneys. Phase 1 environmental site assessment. What does it do? What does it not do? Phase 2 environmental site assessment. Is it always necessary? The property is contaminated. Is this the end of the deal? The underlying question always is, what does it take to remove environmental liabilities from the transaction? All right, here is one example. The yellow arrow points to a strip plaza where groundwater is contaminated with chemicals of dry cleaners. Some 60 years ago, there were cleaners at this place. A balloon payment of $2 million was due, and the lender demanded a clean bill of health from California EPA. In concert with the agency, we tested the soil and groundwater extensively, and we demonstrated beyond a reasonable doubt that the contamination originated at and migrated from a dry cleaning operation kitty corner from our property. The responsibility for the cleanup shifted to the neighbors. Here is another one. The owner of the apartment building needed refinancing. A phase 1 environmental site assessment was done, indicated a dry cleaning business nearby, and raised red flag about possible migration of toxic vapors to the soil under the property. We sampled the soil gas around the building in 6 locations and found that the vapors had indeed migrated under the building. However, the contamination was low at such levels, considered insignificant. The owner got the loan. In this third case, we have an abandoned gasoline station at the upper right-hand corner. The purple patch indicates a puddle of free gasoline floating on the groundwater. It has already left the property in the direction of the next block down. The shades of green indicate gasoline that has dissolved in the groundwater, like sugar, and traveled far and wide. Our client is further down across the street and stuck with contaminated groundwater that keep coming at him. This case is difficult because the contaminating party abandoned their property and filed for bankruptcy. This next case is easy. The vacant lot had an automotive service station 6 decades ago, has been vacant for 40 years, and is now planned for mixed-use development. A practice of some mechanics of old was to dump acids from used automotive batteries into the soil. These acids were loaded with lead that absorbed in the soil. And in our case, we have this yellow marked patch contaminated with lead down to 2 feet. The solution is simple. Excavate and take it out. The cost will be incremental when done as part of the overall redevelopment. In this last example, our client planned to develop the red boxed lot commercially. It's in Redwood Country, up north, and surrounded by an abandoned lumber mill. This historic operation involved toxic chemicals applied to the timber, and the entire land, marked by the yellow gleaming line, is contaminated, soil and groundwater. The water is at 5 feet below the surface. We indicate to our client that his property, in all likelihood, is contaminated by chemicals moved in with the groundwater. They abandoned the redevelopment plan. It is an old wisdom that the solution to the problem is in the problem. When we see the components of the problem, we know what to do. The duty of the Phase 1 environmental site assessment is to indicate what concerns there are, if they are. We research the history through publicly available records. We obtain aerial photographs going all the way back. We obtain many other types of records. We inspect the property and its surroundings, and then we conclude if there are concerns, it should be addressed by further investigation. It may be analogous to the general exam done by your family doctor, and then they decide if certain tests should be taken. And in our case, we call this test Phase 2 environmental site assessment, where we test the soil gas, and groundwater as needed. The Phase 2 aims to provide only one of two answers. Either there is nothing to worry about, or there is worrisome contamination. In the second case, an extended investigation may be required to define the size of the problem. In a nutshell, this is what we've been doing since 1987. It is impossible to lump it all into these few minutes of presentation, and I encourage the listeners to contact me for further guidance. I love to educate. It is a gift that I will share freely with you. Thank you for listening. I would love to hear from you.
Very interesting. Thank you, Ami. All right, switching gears. Now it's time to cover mortgage lending. From PNC Bank, we have Josh Wolfson and Carly Saltzman. They are going to walk us through the pre-approval process and other helpful insights in the lending process. Josh is also our 2020 Affiliates Chair, and Carly is our 2020 YPN Committee Vice Chair. Please welcome Josh and Carly.
Hi there, my name is Carly Saltzman. I'm a loan officer at PNC Bank. I am also the Vice Chair for the YPN at the Greater Los Angeles Association of Realtors.
Hi everyone, my name is Josh Wolfson and I'm with PNC Bank as well. So the question about the process and time frame for pre-approval. So first of all, the time frame for getting a pre-approval is anywhere from 3 to 4 business days to about a week. Why so long, right? You might be asking. Well, here's the thing. We are trying to get these borrowers fully pre-approved, meaning that an underwriter has now fully looked at every single facet of that that buyer brings to the table: the income, the assets, the liabilities, the credit history, everything. And so once that underwriter has actually looked at that file, we can actually confidently assign what's called a loan commitment. A loan commitment, think about how strong of a word that is, meaning that you no longer have to add in a loan contingency in your offer, right? How strong is that? No loan contingency needed. Why? Because the loan is fully pre-approved and there's a commitment to lend. The only thing left is a satisfactory appraisal and a title commitment for the most part. Of course, there's going to be other facets of the transaction that you'll have to consider, of course, inspections and whatnot. But for purposes of this pre-approval, all we're looking at here is everything gets submitted. We're talking bank statements, pay stubs, tax returns, W-2s, 1099s, business tax returns if they're self-employed. All of those items are actually submitted in. And yes, it takes a little bit of extra time because we're going to review it and we're going to say, hey, you're missing a document or you're missing a page of that statement. Yep, we need it all. If we're going to really fully do a pre-approval and get that loan commitment at the end, we need every single piece of that information. So it takes a little bit longer. We have to analyze it. Then once we feel confident about it, then we'll submit that over to underwriting. So process time anywhere from 3 business days to about a week, but trust me, it's worth the time and the effort up front to have a nice, smooth transaction at the end.
In addition to that, there's no cost to get a loan commitment. All it is the time, and it's what a client's going to have to do anyway. So might as well get it out of the way up front and make them stand out when they're making an offer.
Carly, do you want to answer question 2?
All right, what does the lending process look like once an offer gets accepted? Well, there's a few things that happen. First off, we have to trigger the loan application by including the address of the accepted offer. Once we do that, a few things happen. One, the loan disclosures have to get sent out legally within 3 business days of the address being triggered. When that happens, the appraisal gets ordered. We lock in the rate with the borrower, or we at least discuss locking it in or whether we're going to float the rate. And then we get the package, the loan package, ready to go to the underwriter for its initial approval. What happens in the meantime is, the appraisal takes place. We can't collect payment until those disclosures get reviewed by the borrower. And then from there, the file goes into underwriting. We get our conditional approval. Our conditional approval will have items like the title report, the proof of the earnest money deposit, things that are transactional. So if you've fully gone pre-approved prior, you're not going to have these things, and that's what the conditional approval is going to outline. We get those follow-up items, any updated pay stubs, any updated documents, right? And a lot of times we'll anticipate this in order to have a clean approval. Goes to underwriting, we get all those items back, and then from there we work on the items for final approval. At the same time, the appraisal is taking place, right? And what happens is we get the appraisal report back, and that goes to our collateral review team. The collateral review team will approve that appraisal, and then we get our value, and we're good to go there. If it is a condo, there's another step, just an added piece to the puzzle. And what that is the project review. So depending on the actual loan scenario, that will determine what type of project review level we need to do. But regardless, we need to see the health of the HOA, make sure that everything is in good standing there. And there are different programs for condos depending on what their status is HOA wise. But so what happens from there is we get that condo approval at the same time, and that's a different team that is doing that. But there's all these different pieces of the puzzle that are working simultaneously, but in different areas. And we're lining up everything to a T so that way we can close on time. Once we submit the file back for our final approval, we get final approval, and we send out the closing disclosure. The closing disclosure, is matched up. The fees are matched up with the title and escrow company, so that way we send that out, and the buyer knows how much they're supposed to wire to close. And so what happens from there is once they sign their closing disclosure, and typically it's electronically, they will then have a 3-day waiting period, the TRID 3-day waiting rule, before they can actually sign their loan documents. We will do same-day funding, so someone will sign their loan documents, and then we'll fund the loan that same day, and then typically in LA County, recording is the following day. And yeah, that's the loan process.
And for question number 3, simply put, what are the best practices for a quick closing? This is a very easy one and a very quick one. Get your borrower pre-approved. That is by far the most important piece to ensure a quick closing. Just a quick example, if your borrower is pre-approved, and I mean all the way through that underwriting process, again, no loan contingency required, we can generally close in 2 to 3 weeks. Not bad, right? If you're trying to do something within a 30-day escrow, and we're ready with loan docs within a 2 to 3 week period. So get your borrower pre-approved first. That's always the most important step. Thank you.
Some of the best practices for getting your loan, through closing quickly, is one, to provide all the paperwork up front, right? Whether you go for a pre-approval on the loan officer level, or go for a full-on loan commitment through doing what we call a TBD, or to be determined address underwrite. Really it's getting everything ahead of time and before you have an accepted offer, before you really even go shopping. It's important that buyers, know what they qualify for. And the thing is a lot of times people will make a lot of money, for instance, and they don't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily reflect that way in the way that we have to calculate. So it's very, very crucial that people get pre-approved ahead of time, or get their loan commitment. And in addition to that, to not have any changes, to give a heads up to their loan officer of anything, any financial information that could change during the process, what their timeline is looking like. And just really transparency. That's the biggest key to the process, for sure. And just being prepared, and also getting in your documents quickly. That's actually one of the biggest things, is when your loan officer asks you for something, to get that back as soon as possible and with all pages. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate that you took the time to learn more about getting your buyers pre-approved. If you want any more information, check out more information and reach out anytime you'd like.
Thank you for watching. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Wow, thanks Josh and Carly. That was great. Okay, finally, as we all know, our clients are usually looking online for photos and other information about the home that they're interested in. This is one of the first components in listing a property. Quality images that represent the home well. Okay, so we have from Visual Open House, Jonathan Paris. He's our 2020 Vice Chair of the Affiliates Committee, and he is here to talk about best practices when shooting your listing photos and conducting 3D virtual tours. Please welcome Jonathan.
Hi guys, how are you? My name is Jonathan Paris with Visual Open House. I am the Vice Chair of the Affiliates meeting at the board at Greater Los Angeles Realtors. And last year I was the chair of those meetings. So today we're going to be doing the components of a successful transaction. I'll be talking a little bit about what's going on with photography, video, and virtual tours. And in order to do this, I prepared 3 questions that are very common questions. So I can answer these questions and then you can have a better understanding how this will help to actually succeed in a transaction from the photography, video, and virtual tour perspective. So these are the 3 questions. Hiring professional photographers for high-end properties is a must, but should I take pictures myself for mid and low-end properties? Well, guys, definitely the answer to this is absolutely not. It's not possible to take photos yourself unless you are a professional photographer and a certified photographer. Why is that? Because just for the fact that you have a fancy phone doesn't mean that you're going to use the right angles and the right lighting and you're going to be showing the property in the right way. I'm going to show you some examples that I took from the MLS last night, and then you're going to see what you can find today on the MLS. These are real live listings that you are going to find in it. Photos can make or break a deal. That's actually how it started because of this. This is a real photo of a listing in Riverside at $285,000. As you can see, this is the main photo of the listing. This is what people are actually looking at while they are searching for listings online on the MLS, say Zillow, whatever, Redfin, whatever, you name it. This is what they're gonna find. Imagine, that's the main photo. This one in LA for $300,000. It's unbelievable. Again, the main photo of the property. So maybe it was taken with a nice iPhone and a nice a camera from a nice phone, but as you can see, this is actually not the right way to show a property. Even though I understand it's a low-end property, you know, what else you're gonna show? I'm gonna tell you. If you hire a professional photographer, he will know what to do. You know, he will know what angle to show. Probably he will use a wide-angle lens, get closer, and then it's gonna look a little bigger. He's gonna work maybe a little bit on the clouds in the background, despite we are not able to remove anything because that is against the law. We are able to play with the angles, and that is something that definitely a professional photographer can do. This one, if you don't believe me that this is the main photo of the listing, this is the main photo of the listing. 350,000 in LA. Look at this, a fridge, just fridge. And this is not real and not real low-end property. As you can see, you know, the cabinets are nice. I mean, they're not like super high-end, but they are still nice. It's 1,038 square feet home, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. But again, I mean, it's not possible to have this kind of photography to yourself, you know, as main photo of your list. It's crooked, it's blurry, it's definitely not well taken. A professional photography definitely will know what to do in this case. Never would do for each photo as the main photo for the listing. That's for sure. This example, it's unbelievable. This is the only one photo of the listing. And again, guys, I don't know if you can see here, but this one was taken at 11:48 p.m. yesterday, April 27th, 2020. That was last night. So this is live. Of course, I removed the full address and the listing agent out of respect because I'm using just this as an example of the kind of things you can do. As you can see, this is the only one photo, no more photos. It's completely blurry. They left pretty much everything there. I mean, it's really, really terrible. A professional photographer would definitely do something different. And this is a $400,000 listing in LA. Yeah, and I can tell you the address, but it's not a real bad area. So we're actually right now entering in the mid range. So if you're getting a listing that is, you know, 400, $500,000, you can't place a photo like this for your listing, because I'm gonna tell you what is happening in a second. Now this one, it's unbelievable. This is in Westminster. This is $700,000, and this is the main photo. You know, you're looking down in the garden, and then maybe you're gonna see little flowers, but that's it. I mean, that photo doesn't tell me anything. So you can see here, down here, that's the actual house, and it's totally crooked, totally bad taken. And again, this is $700,000 listing, a 1,300 square feet, 4 bedroom, 2 bathrooms in Westminster. It's unbelievable. And what I was gonna say is that your name is your brand. You have to understand that your name is your own brand. And like Coca-Cola, like Apple, they work on this brand building to be on the top of mind of consumers. You have to work in the same way for yourself. It's the only way. And how you're gonna work in your own brand, that it's your own name, if you are showing listings that way because you think that you can take photos yourself. So definitely the question to the answer to that question is no. Definitely you can't take photos yourself. So I'm gonna go back real quick at the beginning of the presentation so I can see the second question, and is more and more listings are shown through 3D virtual tours. Is it really worth it? Well, I gotta tell you, absolutely. Right now, 3D virtual tours is the only way to show properties while the potential buyers are not there, especially we're recording this in April 2020 during the pandemic, during COVID-19 situation. And as you may know, everything went digitally. And right now, it's very important to take care of your clients virtually. So why virtual tours are really important? Because first of all, they are 100% interactive by design. You can go everywhere in the house with a 3D virtual tour. It's a permanent open house. What I was saying, definitely you can have a 24/7 open house right there digitally and use it in critic situations like these ones that we're living right now. It saves time, and of course, if it saves time, it's gonna save money. That's for sure, because just imagine that you have in a regular situation that you're able to show properties. Probably you've been in that situation that you have to show 4, 5 properties in just one day. Now imagine that you send out those 5 properties digitally, 5 links, and then your potential buyer, that's what he's gonna get. He's gonna get the 5 links, he's gonna go online, he's gonna look at them, and then he's gonna filter those 5 listings, and then he's gonna call you back and say, you know what, I just wanna go and see 1 or 2. So that is saving you time and is saving your money. Okay, I'm gonna actually explain a little bit about the 3D virtual tours. So you can see firsthand how it works. This is taken with Matterport, which is the latest technology available for 3D virtual tours. And as you can see, I'm clicking right now with my mouse, and I can click everywhere. I'm gonna just click here on the living room, boom. And it's like you are actually there. You're walking through the house. I'm gonna just go to this angle right here. I'm just gonna turn around like this so you can see what is behind me. Let's go here to the family room area. As you can see, it's 100% interactive, and it gives you a fantastic perspective and point of view of the layout of the property. Well, I'm gonna explain the buttons that you see right here. This one is gonna take you to an automatic 3D visual tour. That's for people that they don't wanna see anything. They just wanna, they don't wanna interact. That's my point. They just wanna click on the play button and they just wanna watch and relax. This is pretty much for that kind of people. Okay, so it's gonna show it completely automatically. Then the next button right here is the dollhouse. You can see the property in full 3D. The camera will measure all the walls, and then it will create a 3D map of the property. That's why you can see the house like this in real 3D. And it's very important, this is not a render. This is a full 360 photo of the property. Then if you click on this button over here, the next one is a floor plan in 2D. So this is a great way to see the layout with a real photo of the property, which is amazing. And then here, the next one is the floor selector. If you say this is the first floor in 2D, now let's go and see the second floor. And what you see here on the side that is faded, that is part of the first floor. And the main feature that a 3D tour has is this, measurement mode. If you click here, then you can measure everything in the property. I'm gonna measure this corner right here on the side wall to this one. As you can see, if you click OK, we're seeing that is 37 feet. Okay, but I really would like to know if I'm here, for instance, in the master bedroom, my bed is actually bigger than that. So I'm able to measure the bed, for instance. Absolutely, you're able to measure pieces of furniture. Look at here. Look at this. You click here on the wall, boom, here. Oh, now you know that this piece of furniture, this bed is 6 feet 11. It's unbelievable. This is the main feature that a 3D tour has. Okay, so as you can see, it's very usable and very important. I'm gonna go back to the presentation, and I'm gonna go to very last question, that is, what about video tours? What's the difference between 3D tours and video tours? This is really important because I've seen a lot of people that are really confused between 3D virtual tours and video tours. And this is a great opportunity to explain what is the main difference. Virtual tours, what we just saw, is fully interactive. You can have your little play button right here where you're gonna have an automatic 3D tour, but there's no music. This is not cinematic at all. This is all high tech, straight to the point. What do you want to see? You want to see the layout. You want to measure. It's more like you are in the property. Okay, so that's pretty much about the 3D virtual tours. And now a very important question that I get many times. What about video tours? What's the difference between 3D tours and video tours? This is really important, and it's a very common question. Well, videos are really important. Why? Because 5 billion videos are watched every day. This is data from last year. Probably this is a higher number right now. And then video traffic will be 82% of all consumer internet by 2021. This is data from last year. They say that probably is going to be 84%. What what is actually telling this? What it's telling you is that of all you see in internet, everything that you see in internet is going to be 82% of it is going to be video by 2021. Imagine how important is a video. So video tours are a real good tool to promote the property, to promote it in social media, to buy ads in Google, to buy ads in Facebook, etc. Something definitely you can't do with 3D tours. 3D tours are really the interactive part. It's more like you are there. It's like, oh, this is a real open house, kind of. You know, you wanna have a feel of like what would be being there in the property. You know, you want to measure the wall because I have a piece of furniture that I see put in there, and I want to feel how it looks. That's how it works. But for video, I'm going to show you an example. It's totally the opposite. It's like looking at a movie of the property. In this case, I'm going to show you the video tour of the same property. Okay, and this is the director's cut. I'm the director. I shot myself this one last week, and I'm going to show you how it works. As you can see, you can have this super nice animated titles right here. You can add a very nice music in the background, something you cannot do with 3D tours. And as you can see, it's fully cinematic. It's like you're watching a nice movie of the property. You just click play, relax, and it's nice to watch. It's just relaxing. And using these kind of things in social media, it's great for buying advertising and for posting and to create just regular content for your own social media or your YouTube channel and stuff like that. And if you want to do a hardcore promoting, buying ads with video is the best way to get the return of the investment. Don't buy ads with just articles. Buy it with video. Video is the best way to do it. So video is still extremely relevant. It's not like the 3D tours are just like, you know, taking over videos. It doesn't work like that. You have to use video to promote the listing in social media, to buy advertising, etc. And then you have to have the 3D tour so you can, you can get the opportunity of offering your clientele the chance to be in the property digitally. That's pretty much how it works. So, well, guys, I hope that this answers all your questions regarding how to have a successful transaction. As you can see, a component of a successful transaction, a big component is photography, videos, and 3D tours. So I hope that you guys use it, and I hope you guys have a very successful transaction next time. Thank you very much. My name is, again, Jonathan Paris with Visual Open House. You have all my information right there. And if you have any question, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Wow, very cool. Thanks, Jonathan. That was awesome. Okay, well, that about wraps it up for components to a successful transaction. Wow, that was all very valuable information and outstanding presentations from our speakers. So thank all of you very much for your time and participating. Well, now we're going to open it up to a Q&A. So if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box on the bottom of your screen and send in your questions. Now, meanwhile, we have plenty more upcoming webinars and classes, which you can find at www.greaterlarealtors.com/calendar. And you can also find more previously recorded presentations in our e-library on the website as well. I just want to thank you all so much for attending today. On behalf of the Greater Los Angeles Realtors Association, stay healthy, stay safe, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you all very much. We'll see you on the next one.